What is up guys, it's Troy at the Full Setup back with another review for you, and as you can see it's all changed all again. What's this, like the third or fourth area that you've seen me present videos from in about a month? Well, I thought I might as well just push ahead with the ordering, and I'm glad I did because it took 3 weeks to get these desks from IKEA and I wanted to order some extra bits for them and they're not even got delivery at the moment. So yeah, I'm super happy with it. There will be a full tour. We'll do a full sort of build tour in a few weeks. I'm waiting on a capture card because I'd probably like to do it live stream. Still got a lot to do as well. Lighting, possibly, you know, something up on the wall over here. But anyway, that's not what we're here for today. That's not what we're here for today. We need to review this. This is the Deepcool Macube P310 case. It's a case that I've been using for about a month and a half, almost 2 months now. There is a full unboxing of it on my channel. There'll be a link in the description to that video. But today we're going to look at the build I've put in it and just how I've sort of, you know, how I've got on with the case, my thoughts and feelings, pros and cons. We'll do all of that at the end of the video. But I just want to dive in a second and show you the build. Also, we have the announcement of the winner for the competition for the Deepcool Gamax GT RGB cooler. I probably should have it in my hand here, but it's in a box somewhere since I've done all the moving. I don't even know if it's still at my house. If I can't find it, I'll have to order one myself and send it out to you, but we'll be announcing that winner as well at the end of the video. So let's take a look at the case. So I'm sure I already mentioned at the beginning of the video there, it's been manic for me the past sort of month or so of all this COVID-19 stuff, getting everyone working from home at my job, doing a setup upstairs, moving everything from there, then deciding that I'm actually gonna crack on and build the new YouTube studio ahead of time. So it's a bit tight for space looking at the case for this part of the video because I had to shoot this before all of the desks and everything turn up. This is like a cheap £30 desk. It's struggling with the weight of this case. I'm super paranoid that it's going to snap on me halfway through this video and my editing PC is going to die. Now, again with COVID-19 as well, there was a few things that, well, one item really and a couple of other things that I'll talk about as well that didn't come for the build. That's why it took a little bit longer. I was waiting on Arctic for the white bands, but I think they're closed, so I ended up just ordering them myself. And Corsair was supposed to send over 64 gigabytes to their new RGB RAM, which didn't come, which, yeah, a little bit gutted. It would have been overkill for a Ryzen 3600. Like I said, this is what I'm going to be using as my editing PC for the rest of the year, so I knew that I was going to probably, when the Ryzen 4000 chips come out, possibly buy a 12 or 16 core. If you look at something like the 2700X that went down to £150, you know, if I could get a 12 core for 200 to 250, definitely put it in this PC and use it as an editing rig. Really am happy with the Deepcool Macube case. It's the 310P. Getting a bit confused. I just absolutely love the look of it. This goes with the desk, sort of everything that I wanted. You've got sort of the grey with touches of white. It's just going to look fantastic on my desk. Well, it does look fantastic. I'm really impressed with this. I have got a full unboxing of this case as well where we go around it. And I am going to apologise that I'm not doing the step-by-step build that I would normally do. I just haven't got the time. And also as well, even though I know I wouldn't, I don't want to take apart at the moment the editing rig and maybe break something. I know it's not going to happen, but this thing right now is... This is the important thing for me. This keeps me busy in what's a really boring time being stuck at home. But I love the lines on this case. Absolutely love the lines. I love the paintwork finish. I think it's just a little bit less powdery than the 510. Do be careful with it though because it can chip a little bit. Grey logo on the front looks really nice as well. Now the front panel, if I had one annoyance about this case, because you see this lovely honeycomb that we've got going on over the top here. I've actually seen someone on Instagram, they've done a mod to match the same, and I really do think Deepcool need to sell this panel with the same top as this. They need to release a mesh version of this case. It'd be really good. You're seeing a lot more companies doing mesh cases now, so that's feedback I'm going to give to them, because I don't know if you can see across here. It does need a little bit of a dust off, but you've got very limited airflow. I'll try and get some of that on B-roll, and it only actually comes from here to here. Like, there's enough, but as soon as you put a radiator in the front, it really does choke it. And if they do release a mesh version of this, again, will be something I feed back to them. I'd like them to take the same approach as Fantex with the P400A, where they actually sell the panel separately, because I was looking at buying a mesh front for my P400 because I was going to use that as a Plex server. That's why that case has been sat in my garage for a bit. But I was umming and ahhing because I know the airflow is crap on that case. It's not crap. It's just you've got two tiny little dust filters. I'm just waffling away. So yeah, really like the general look of this case. The magnetic panel, I mean, straight away, because there's two case reviews going up at the same weekend, and the other case I was sent, which I do really like, that Genesis case, but having to unscrew stuff, it was just such a pain. The fact that you can just do that, magnetic panel, and you're away. Let me put this into position so we can start. So over to the inside of the build then, and I can see the case is sort of tilting backwards. It's got like a lean to it going that way. So yeah, we might have to level it out a little bit afterwards, and I've got to wear a hat now because my hair's got too long, far too long. So let's start with the front then. So I've got the Arctic 360 freezer to cooler, and I've only got 5 of the fans because you can't fit a 5th one in here. You should be able to do push-pull if you went with any of Deepcool's coolers because they use a slightly slimmer radiator, okay? This radiator is coming in at, I think it's like 40 mil, or was it 38 mil? As standard radiators are like 25 millimeters. These fans, I absolutely love these fans. These are about £5 each. They're not the best performing fans out there by any shot. They're one of the only fans that I could find that were like pure freaking white. And the thing I love about these fans is they go down to 200 RPM. So you can run this like super silent. One thing I've got from a lot of people, I've done a lot of cooler reviews, and some people are saying, oh, your temps are higher, and why have you got more temps than other reviewers and stuff? And I've always been a bit honest with my cooler reviews. I do not have a controlled environment, but I always try and test when it's around the 20-degree mark. I quite often like to use a case that hasn't got tons of airflow. I like to show a worst case scenario. I also run the voltage at auto. So with the 3600 at 4.2 gigahertz, you will find that the voltage goes up to almost 1.4. So that's why you get the higher temps. I want to show the worst case, not the best. If you look at a lot of other cooler reviews as well, you see them, they have them on an open air test bench. That isn't testing it, right? Okay, they are still testing it right. I'm not trying to knock them, but I like to show the worst case. But I have undervolted the CPU. I've undervolted the Ryzen 3600. I've gone down to a 1.285 volt now with load line calibration set to level 2. I still get the same 4.2 gigahertz in boost, and I still get the exact same score in Cinebench. If you were thinking of undervolting, you need to run Cinebench to get some baseline scores, because you can set this to 1 volt, like 1.1 volts, and it will still do 4.2 gigs, but then you end up getting like 800 in Cinebench instead of, I think this gets 2.5 or 3,500 in Cinebench. So yeah, waffling along there, but love this little cooler. I have been considering turning off the little fan there. It's one thing I didn't mention in the review and someone brought to my attention, is that you can unclip the little VRM fan. What else have we got going in here? Down at the bottom here, we've got the Gigabyte B700 power supply, B700H modular power supplies. I've been using these for almost close to 3 years now. I've got 2 of them. And I've got like an LED light strip in here lighting it up. So you could put an RGB strip in here. I wanted to go for the sort of white and black Stormtrooper build. And then I've got another LED strip in the side here. Now 700 watts is way too much for this system. You could easily run this on a 400 to 500 watt power supply. I just like to have, you know, for the channel, a bigger power supply. It just helps me out. You never know, I could put something really power hungry in here, and at least I have a power supply that can do it. But yeah, I've 500 watt EVGA power supplies. I use quite a lot. They're cheapest bronze ones. Now there is in here, there's like a GPU bracket, which I can't get to because I've got the fans in push-pull. The GPU bracket does work really well. So the RTX 2060 here is just sort of sagging just a slight little bit. Before I actually had the white fans, I did have it in. I can't find where it is in all the mess at the moment, but hopefully I've got some B-roll of what that looks like. Really nice little feature. One thing I didn't say in the main review is down here, there's like 2 little screw holes, and I think that's for putting a vertical GPU bracket in it. Now, just a couple of things I don't like about the internals of this case is that you do have the grommets, 1, 2, 3 of them here. They're a little bit too small, and then down in the bottom you have gaps to get all your cables in, but you have no grommets. And I said this in my last case review, I do not understand that if you make grommets, if you're making grommets for holes that you've got in cases, why not put the grommet in every hole? You're already making the grommets. I can't see it being a huge huge production cost, and to be fair, I would pay £5 extra for a case that had grommets everywhere. More than happy. You can fit up to a 280 cooler in the front as well, or 240s. Did forget to mention that. Now we've got the RTX 2060 Dual. Really like this graphics card. Like, the system is incredibly quiet. I actually run all of this a little bit hotter than what you could run the system at, but to get the fans nice and quiet. So the rear 120 Arctic P12 is set to max out at 800 RPM. The three CF120s in the top, which I've got set to white, are set to max out at 120 RPM. Now this motherboard doesn't support ARGB fans, so I am having to use the controller, which I've got sort of plugged in the back here, so I can, if I wanted to, let's find it, set it to an RGB spectrum, so I can have the RGB effects, change the speed and stuff, so that is there for when I want to test RGB stuff. Where's the white? There we go. So I've got it white. It's got a little tinge of blue, but for the most it is white. When I test RGB products, I will have to turn off the white LEDs that I've got sort of down here and in the front, because it sort of takes away the RGB effect a little bit. As for the RAM, I mean, it's not like I've got bad RAM in here. I've got 16 gigabytes of Team Dark Pro. This is their 3600 megahertz memory. And I really recommend this memory kit. It runs at CL16. You can get some pretty tight timings on it. I have been able to drop it down to CL14. I think it's like 14, 15, 15, 36. But you have to put 1.4 volt into the memory to do that with manual timing. So you can do that. You can also run it at 3200 megahertz CL14. Sadly, I bought this when RAM was really expensive, so I think I paid like £190 for this kit. But at the time, compared to G-Skill stuff, the equivalent G-Skill was like 270, so it was a good deal. And you can pick these kits up now for just over 120 quid. This is the 8-pack edition if you're in the UK, and you can get that from Overclockers. As mentioned, yeah, the CF120 fans in the top, they're set to 800 RPM. Don't know if I said that. White braided extension cables. I definitely need replacements of these. If you're someone that has like tinkers in their PC all the time, or runs a YouTube channel and gets sent stuff all the time to review, these get incredibly freaking dirty. But I did manage to just wipe them down. I used baby wipes and it's made them a bit cleaner, and you have to be looking up closely, they're dirty. I've got another one up top as well for the 8-pin power coming in. What else have we got going on in here? Oh yeah, down the bottom here, the heatsink keeps sliding off. We have a 250 gigabyte Samsung Evo 960. That's what I use as my project drive for Adobe Premiere. And then underneath here on the M.2 heatsink, I have a 1 terabyte Sabrent Rocket SSD. That's my main system drive, and I have my Origin library on there as well. Not that I really actually play a lot of any other Origin games, but I just want Battlefield on my fastest drive. And lastly, the motherboard. This is where it gets sad. This is where it gets really sad. Shall we focus on my face for a second and we'll talk about the sadness? So I don't know how in focus I am, but this is why it's sad. This is why it's sad, because this is an Asus X470 Pro, which I picked up for £45 I won on eBay. So a super good deal. But I bought it mainly because I didn't want to buy an X570 because they were overpriced, and B550 motherboards took so long to come out. So I've been recommending everyone to buy B450 motherboards, including a few friends of mine, which I'm going to have to apologize to, because I told them all that you would be able to upgrade to newer CPUs at a later date. Now, luckily for most of the people I've recommended it to, they're on 3600 CPUs. So there is definitely a upgrade path there. You know, you could upgrade to a 8, 12 or 16 core. But as we found out in the last few days, Ryzen 4000 will not be supported on these motherboards. Now, I always knew 2020 is when they were going to push the AM4 platform to, but I am a bit annoyed because I didn't know it was Zen 3 this year. I haven't been focusing on the news too much with everything that's been going on, like PC news in general. But what I actually thought was going to happen was that you had Ryzen, the 1000 and 2000 series both came under Zen 1. So I was expecting just a 7nm plus or something like that this year. I wasn't expecting a whole new architecture. So yeah, it's a bit annoying, and it's also really annoying because it's really hard to find white motherboards for Ryzen these days, which I really like. You know me, I like my white and black builds. So I am going to have to buy a B550 motherboard in the next few months. The next CPU I'll be testing in this is the Ryzen 3300X as well. We'll be doing gaming benchmarks on this system coming for you in sort of early June. So there was the inside of the system. I'm going to power it down and I'm going to show you around the back of it. Over to the rear of the case now. You might notice I've got this sort of little black thing here. These are some little clips that they include. I think they're sort of like anti-tamper because it's got like the magneticness, but I've actually used it on the back because I said when I originally looked at this case, I generally don't do the neatest cable management in the world. If I'm building a build for someone else, it will be like perfect and flawless. But because I take my systems apart a lot, I don't want to put too many cable ties in there because, you know, I'll clip in all this extra RGB cables, make it all look nice, and then someone's like, oh, do you want to review this? And I've got to take it all out again. So it's just, yeah, I don't like to do that. And then also where we've got the, I don't know if you can see it a bit better now, the controller that comes out of the back. It's annoying, but yeah, I do like that they've put the magnetic one on the back. I feel for a lot of people that is really nice, but it's got like sort of a slight little flaw, and that's just because you have to clip it in down here. So if you're using just a standard power supply, or if you were using a fully modular power supply and you've got your own cables, it's not too bad. But by the time you've added all your own extension cables and you do decide you want to use the hard drive caddy down here, it becomes very tight here. And that is where it's quite, stuff gets in the way. I've also got like braided SATA cables as well. So there's a hell of a lot of stuff going on in here. It's a mess. I'm not going to try and cover it. Now they have got a fan hub up here. A built-in PWM fan hub, which I'm using for the CF fans. You would have noticed that one of those Arctic fans wasn't spinning. It just became a little bit loose the other day. I'd been experimenting with airflow a couple of days ago, so I experimented with the CF fans facing the other way, bringing air into the system, because on hot days it was getting a little toasty. That's when I decided to actually undervolt the CPU instead, because it was only trading off like 1 or 2 degrees from having the fans the opposite way around, and it looks better with them the other way. So that fan's being plugged back in now. That one's also got the clear. It's the clear, not the full white one, because I already had a clear one that Arctic sent over. It's in the front, you can't see it. Got all of those front fans plugged in here in a PWM. This is the one that Deepcool throw in with all their kits. Like it because it sticks on the back. Then I have an RGB controller here, Deepcool one. Down in the bottom here, there is a 2 TB hard drive and a 1 TB hard drive. Now this is how it works. I've got 2 of my older SSDs in here, which I'm no longer using because I'm on Nvme. The HyperX Fury 240GB drive is fused with the 2 TB drive using AMD Fuse Drive, although they've discontinued that now. Apparently something better is coming out later in the year, because that's been discontinued on their website, but you can still buy a license for, I think they had a discounted license for about £6, which I bought for another system. So that makes my games just a little bit snappier, load a little bit quicker. So it's 2 TB storage with 250GB of cache. The other 240GB SSD down in here, this is an older OCZ Tryon, I think it is. I use that as an Adobe Media, like Adobe Premiere Pro cache drive. And then again, you can see the power supply in here. That's basically what's going on. I'm not going to pop the hard drives out because it's a pain. The hard drives are Toshiba, are they the P300s? P300 2 TB and 1 TB. So I just wanted to do a sort of sound test to show you sort of how quiet this system is. So at the moment we've just got nothing on the screen, and then I'm going to load Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Now, like I said, I prefer to run these fans lower and have a slightly higher temperature, slightly higher idle temps as well, versus having, you know, a very quiet system. To be honest, the only thing I can really hear at the moment is that little VRM fan, so I'm just going to turn that down. So it's like 35 dB. Remember, that's right up to the case. Don't know if that's going to focus there because I've got the face tracking auto focus on. Face tracking autofocus on. I'm going to load up Shadow of the Tomb Raider. I'm going to see what sort of temps we get. So we're running the Shadow of the Tomb Raider benchmark. CPU temps are at 42 degrees, although it can creep up to about 55 when I'm playing Battlefield, especially since I overvolted it. If not, it was going up to like 64 degrees, which is really high.
for the size of the cooler we've got in here, but the fans are barely running. The GPU temperature is at 65 degrees C, boosters at 1875 megahertz. If I turn the fan speed up a little bit, it will boost to just over 1900, but again, I prefer the quiet. So there we go, that's hopping around 38 and 39 dB, and that's right up to the case as well. Sort of have it 36 dB there. I'm telling you, I built a silent system here. This is what I wanted. I wanted quiet, happier with slightly higher temps, super quiet system.
So it's time to announce the winner then, and Kitten Trousers, pretty sick name there, from Discord, you are the winner of the Deepcool Gamax GT RGB cooler. Probably some B-roll footage around my finger of that cooler. We'll be contacting you shortly to find out where you live, where I've got to send it to you. Obviously, with the current situation, deliveries are taking a lot longer, so please don't feel offended if it takes a while. I'm also myself not going to be able to dispatch it for about another week and a half due to some just personal circumstances and things that are going on at the moment. But what about the case? I love the case. I really do love the case. I have got some cons about it, and I feel like I'm going to have an extra attachment to this case, and I'll tell you why I'm going to have an extra attachment to the case. When I first decided to start doing sort of like YouTube videos and PC builds and stuff, it's because I was actually suffering really badly from depression. I just wasn't happy with where I was in my life. It's sort of in my mid-20s, and I decided to stop going out so much, drinking, maybe doing a few things at the weekend that I shouldn't do, and just decided to like do something else. And this is where it's at today. Even in these hard times, do you know what I mean? I've gone out and done this, and it was a big risk, a very big risk taken. Doing all this stuff, buying the new camera, all of those things was a huge risk to me, okay? My housemate who I live with, who pays half the bills, is currently furloughed. So is my girlfriend. I've talked about all that stuff before. So it's just, where was I? Waffling. So it was a big risk, and when I put that down on the desk was almost reminded me of when I put my NZXT, which one was it? You remember the white one, the first white one they did? I've totally forgot, I'll put the model number here. But when I put that case on the desk years ago, that was like, this is something that I really want to do, and this is something that I really want to enjoy. And when I put all these desks in yesterday, the first things I put on was just this, you know, white thing here that I've got my speakers on, and then I put the PC straight on the desk, and I just stood back. And I looked at it, and I felt, there was just something that I felt. Do you know what I mean? I felt this is right. I'm so happy in this moment. And so I feel like I'm always going to have a bit of attachment to this case now. I did sell my NZXT case. No, I didn't. I gave it away to a good friend, so it's still in use. I don't think I'm going to be able to part with this case ever, but it's, you know, it has got some flaws. Like I said, I feel they need to start doing more mesh. They have got one or two cases with a mesh case, but I feel it needs a mesh panel on the front. But then I do like the solid white look. I think if it was maybe just like an inch bigger all the way around on the front and on the top, that would allow for much bigger airflow. So that's one way you can do it, but it's definitely got better airflow than the 510 case that I had before it. The magnetic side panel, honestly, it's just, I have to be careful there because they hit the speaker. But that's just, it is just absolutely incredible. I love that. It's the little features. Deepcool do so many little touches, so many little things. I know I keep banging on about it all the time, and you know, you could sound biased because they send a lot of their stuff out, but I do criticise where I can. What would I like? Yeah, what would I like in a revised vision then? Yeah, it would just be, like I said, the mesh panel. Obviously grommets all the way around. I feel there's no excuse not to have grommets. If you've already made them and the grommet hole is the same size, why haven't you put them in? A couple of SSD caddies down in the bottom is always nice. We know that's sort of something that NZXT started and everybody else does now in the basement, so that would be really good. Maybe some built-in RGB lighting, maybe do a pro version that you include with some RGB fans, but honestly, there's not a lot I would change about it. I really like the case, and I'm really happy with the build. Obviously gutted about the AMD motherboard situation, but that's not Deepcool's fault. I felt like that sort of tarnished me wanting to get that footage a little bit, and it's annoying because there's not, like I said, there's not really any white motherboards. AMD ones. You've got the ASRock Aqua. I think that's white. I'm not spending that much money though just to have a white PC. So there is the X570 version at Motherboard, but it sells at almost £250, and I just do not think it's worth that price. So I feel like every X570 motherboard is marked up about £75 more than it should be, and I just can't buy into that, and it's annoying. Now luckily I do have a lot of AMD motherboards, so I'm thinking about selling them all now while the time is right. I've got 2 B450s and 3 X370s I'm not using, so I think maybe if I sell all of those, I could maybe justify buying that Asus board. But yeah, it's going to be hard because I love white and black builds, and obviously AMD's the way to go, and there's not a lot of motherboards for them. But again, that's literally nothing to do with Deepcool. That's just me having a good rant. Big up to Kit in Trousers on the competition winner. Skillshare link in the bottom as well if you want to learn something while you're sat at home real bored. Any suggestions on the setup, let me know. I definitely need to start now focusing on the camera a bit more. I think I'm going to have to get into learning how to shoot full manual. It's just my arms are too little. You can't reach the focusing ring. Just got these tiny little T-Rex fuckers going on. Anyway, that's it for me. Leave a like. Make sure you subscribe. I'll speak to you real soon.